By the time this video comes out, I will have spent a full 24 days working on this project. Now, the past couple of weeks have been crazy. I've been locked in, so I'm taking a break, going on holiday for a week, and by the time I come back, I will have another 24 days to work on this project before I start at Meta. So this video is serving as a sort of checkpoint, covering where my thinking's at with the business, what I've done so far, what I still need to do, who I've met along the way, and who I still need to meet. So feel free to skip to those sections. We're going to start off with where my thinking's at. So in the last video, I gave you a pretty clear definition of what the problem I was trying to solve was and what the solution I was proposing was. Many concert goers record events. This can be distracting and prevents attendees from being fully present. At the same time, high quality recordings have the potential to preserve rare and unique concert experiences. Yet only fragmented recordings exist, scattered across personal devices, and I was proposing Recapa, which was a dedicated app where ticket holders can upload and access concert footage, all synced to studio quality audio, and we give fans the ability to relive their favourite shows from different angles with amazing audio, and it keeps them engaged after the event, all of that for free. That hasn't changed. That is still part of the problem we're trying to solve. But last week I travelled up to Birmingham to this Future Tech Talent Hackathon event, and one thing that I got out of that was this question: who is the customer? The customer here isn't the concert goer. Whilst they definitely benefit from this app, from this idea, they're not the person who's going to be paying in the end. And that shift in thinking allowed me to reframe the entire app. So now, our primary paying customers are artists and labels using Recapa to access, review, and license curated, user-generated content, reducing promotion costs and driving authentic engagement. So the end users, they're still customers. We should still improve their experience during and after the event, but they're not the people who are going to be paying the bill. So now we can redefine the problem. It's that scattered, low-quality videos end up unused on individuals' devices, often never to be watched again, and this user-generated content is difficult to license for artists and labels, which could put it to work. So what is Recapa to the primary paying customer, that being the artist and the label? Well, we're a centralized hub for easily licensable, user-generated content. So that's how my thinking has changed. But what have I actually been up to since the last video? Well, last week through my university, I attended this Future Tech Talent Hackathon, which is essentially a business development day where lots of entrepreneurs and sort of startup founders came together to learn different sort of business skills. And I just want to say a big thank you to the organisers and the speakers from that event. Their names should be on screen. Their talks really helped reshape my thinking so that I can make this into a viable business. I'm going to the next stage with that, which is a pitch competition in October. And hopefully, if I pass that, I get to present at Birmingham Tech Week, also in October. Now, I also had a bunch of meetings, notably with the director of my university's startup accelerator called Elevate, which I'll be applying to in June, and another with the CEO of Pure Sound Network, an app that connects artists with venues to create gigs. And we're looking at ways that we could partner with each other in the future. The majority of my time I spent on the technical side of things though. So I scoped out a lot of the features and systems that I'd need to build. I defined a database schema to start, API endpoints that I know I'd need, authentication systems that I'd use, and sort of looked more into testing with bunny.net and the video streaming and audio streaming solutions. Basically just put in loads of hours, about 2,000 lines of code later, and now I've got a functioning backend with all the endpoints defined, authentication working, everything ready to go. I'm going to cover that in more detail later on. Another big milestone for me was applying for the trademark for Recapa. I really like the name. I've had some great feedback from it, so I'm very happy to be applying for that. It did cost a pretty penny, but I think it's something that's worth doing early on just to make sure that that's all secure and I don't have to go through the pain of figuring out another name. Link to that, I applied to my university's Ideas Fund grant. It's for £500. That will cover a lot of the costs for the trademark, making some of the stickers for the sort of pilot runs, and the recorder, the Zoom H7n recorder for the pilot run. But aside from the money, a big benefit of doing that application was it asked me a lot of questions that got me thinking about a lot of stuff. I've spoken to a lot of folks in different events over the past couple of weeks. Some names are on screen of some brilliant people that I spoke to. Speaking to those folks and doing that application really helped me solidify the direction of the company. Out of those people, I found a couple people to help me out along the way as well. So Vikramjeet, this guy just messaged me on LinkedIn and he had an amazing portfolio. So I took a meeting with him and now he's going to come on and help me with the website. So that's one of the 5 goals that I set last week, ticked off the list. I've just got to design a brief and send it over to him. And then another person that's coming on board, I was thinking, who do I really trust when it comes to creative and design matters? And actually, it's my good friend Kip. He's coming on board to help with everything creative, from video to audio, marketing, copy. He understands people, knows what they like and what they don't like, and is a great sounding board for ideas. So I'm really happy to have him on board. So that's what I've been up to, the folks I've met, the tasks I've done so far. What's next? Well, you might remember that last week I had this goal task dependency graph going on. Now, since the direction of this business has slightly changed to focus on the licensing of UGC, I feel like there's a key thing that is missing from this graph, which is the sort of legal side of things. Now, otherwise, the sort of website, that's Vikramjit. He's going to help out with that. Obviously, I'm going to have some input. Kip's going to have some input, but that's sort of spoken for almost. The branding and messaging, me and Kip are going to work through that. Same with explainers and the deck. That's going to be sort of me and Kip are going to work through that. Kip's going to help out quite a lot with that. The backend / infrastructure for the MVP, well, I'm going to show you in a little bit, but touch wood, that's done. And then the front end. So a big focus of the 24 days I have after I come back from holiday is going to be building this MVP. I can vibe code a little bit in React Native. A lot of the UI is going to be fairly standard, except for that screen where people are watching videos and also listening to the audio at the same time. Getting the UX for that right is going to be quite tricky. It's going to require quite a lot of effort and iterations and speaking to different customers and speaking to different folks. After I spoke to Oliver Edis, he's the CEO of Morrow, which is a React Native specialist in Bristol. He suggested that it might be worth moving to native computation for that component. I'm going to try and MVP it out, see if I can scrap it together. But yeah, that's going to be the biggest challenge when we come back. Now for my holiday as well, I'm going to southern Germany for a bit and then going up to Berlin for the weekend, partly because I love the nightlife. And obviously Berlin's quite a big inspiration for this application. The fact that 90% of clubs there ban filming. So I'm going to get some opinions, see if maybe I can do a little poll of people if I feel like it. We'll see. So that's what's next for Recapa. The rest of the video, I'm going to be talking about the technical side of things that I've been working on. So in the last video, I spoke about the MVP systems and I showed you this diagram. Now things have changed a little bit. Specifically, I've worked on the back end and the middleware and sort of fleshed out a lot of the systems and the way things will actually work in the app. Now, I wanted to talk about the video uploading. So before, in this system, I imagined that users would upload their video directly to the backend, and then from that backend, I would upload it to the CDN, to bunny.net for video serving. And that would sort of be a privileged action. You know, I need my API key to access bunny.net. Fortunately, bunny.net comes with this TUS resumable uploads endpoint. Now, TUS, it's a protocol for resumable uploads. So you can sort of upload a little bit and then your connection drops and then upload a bit more afterwards. It's like perfect for end users with sort of fragile connections, like in a mobile connection, for example. And the way that you authenticate these requests is a little odd. You generate an authorization signature by doing the SHA-256 of the library ID concatenated with the API key, the expiration time, and the video ID. It's a very strange sort of signature. I've never seen anything like this. So out of these things, we've got the library ID, got the API key, got the expiration time. Those are all things that are sort of fairly standard, non-moving. So the video ID is a little different, right? So we actually need to provision each video ID. So let's say I want to upload 10 videos, right? On the front end, the user selects 10 videos. Now we know that we need to generate 10 signatures to upload and also 10 video IDs. So I've got this diagram to explain. First, the user would hit this endpoint here and we check the permissions, whether they're selected to film, right? Whether they've gone to that concert. Check if a collection exists for this concert. Are they the first user that's uploading a video? Maybe. We need to provision a video IDs. This happens sort of a number of times. We'd add placeholder rows to the Superbase table. And we'd send back all the details here that are needed to upload the video directly from the client to bunny.net. And bunny.net fortunately has a webhook, so it takes a little time to process all of the different resolutions, transcode into all the different formats. So this allows us to get a status update and update the database all in real time. Now that system I've just described, it covers the video provisioning service, the TUS upload orchestration, and the webhook handler. Now an interesting system that you might think is quite easy is uploading and streaming audio. But you've got to keep in mind that we're syncing video and audio real time in the app. So this has to be super precise. So for film, acceptable lip sync is considered to be no more than 22 milliseconds in either direction. And that corresponds to roughly 1 frame. So we're talking about a very high level of precision. Well, you may say you're talking about audio. Most audio is at 48 kilohertz, and that's a 0.0208 millisecond period, right? It's tiny. Now, the reason a problem arises is due to HTTP range requests. So let's say I want to seek to 5 minutes and 26 seconds throughout the audio. I click on that in the UI, right? What does my backend send to my front end? Well, what we would do is we'd send a range request to request these specific bytes within the file. Now, how do I know what byte corresponds with the start of that time, right? So 5 minutes, 29 seconds, what byte is that? Well, if I've got variable bitrate, you can't know unless you have extra data. That extra data is an index, and that's the system that I'm going to be using. This is essentially a map from times to bytes, and this allows me to use variable bitrate, which means that I can keep my bandwidth costs down and the storage costs down with a little added complexity, but overall, the benefits outweigh the costs. So that covers the main complex systems that are going on in the back end. There are some other routes that are available, like the moderator routes, the admin routes, but for the most part, these are doing simple CRUD operations. Another big change as compared to what I was envisaging before was that I'm using Postgres, but purely through Supabase. No local Postgres. I actually kind of prefer this because it means that even if my VPS goes down, I've still got data consistency elsewhere. Also, it means that I don't have to have API routes for every single CRUD operation. A lot of the requests can go from the front end directly to the Supabase DB, because Supabase uses row-level security, so after I implement a few RLS policies, it means that users can only access rows that they're supposed to. And for a little bit of fun, I wanted to check how many lines of code I'd written in the backend, so I ran this tool, SEC, and it gave me this crazy COCOMO price estimation, cost estimation. If it was a worker costing $35,000, they're saying this should cost $42,000. So that's why you see that in the title. Right, so that just about wraps up this week. So as I said before, I'm going on holiday. So the next video will probably be in about 2 weeks' time. And as always, if you want to collaborate, feel free to book a meeting with the link down below or hit me up on LinkedIn. Until then, cheers guys.